eyes caught hold of the dance shoes on the shelf in the walk-in closet. And Linda could feel herself on stage again, sitting on the bench with a red-headed elfin man with thick glasses, holding his hand in a romantic clasp, and with one eye squinted shut, began her part of the duet. Now, singing was a struggle to articulate with her classic thick tongue, a trial at times to overcompensate. But in Linda's reverie, she would morph into a Hollywood version of herself and command the stage. When the dance was done, when I went my way, and when I tried to find rainbows far away, all my wildest dreams multiplied by 2. They were you, they were you, they were you. There would be loud laughter in the other room, and the reverie would disintegrate. That's what I came to talk about, said the familiar woman, loving the innocent segue to our next request. The musical that Linda wrote last year for the theater company, well, it was one of the things I showed the Broadway Theater League on my last visit. I had my DVD with me, and after showing Linda's musical, there was a unanimous yes for the musical to be produced in New York with Broadway actors as a fundraiser. Well, the room was alive with delight over the news, except where Linda sat. For Linda was still trying to recall what Broadway was. But the chatter in the room continued with tones of excitement, which turned to concern, and then another to skepticism, to worry, to humor, to concern, to doubt, to skepticism, to Linda has a weak heart, and she could never fly in a plane, to reassurance, to concern, back to skepticism, to my uncle has a van already. I can pick up the 3 and away we go. Somehow the room was convinced. Someday I'm going to be on Broadway, Linda Lovely called out, then closed her one eye and cocked her petite head. Well, yes, said amazed and slightly worried mother. I don't believe it, but I guess you are. Linda began to dance with her arms again as she had done before, and this time the visitor sang slowly to help her remember. Out of my dreams and into your arms I long to fly. Stated, if you have any questions about your characters or bits of business, please direct them to Linda. And that was that. A question flew to our lovely creator. Linda, I have a question about one of my lines, and I wanted to know if you would see if I was interpreting it correctly. Said a young man in black jazz pants with a t-shirt sporting the title, A Chorus Line. He backed up to show Linda his interpretation. I love you, Judd. You amaze me. I've done this before. I walk away from Judd, and the actor did the hand gesture that Linda insisted was always put in the show. And I don't believe you. Well, Linda's eyes widened. She saw it exactly performed the way she always seen it in her head. A giggle came forth. This was the first giggle to come from our star for some time now, and surprised everyone who witnessed. He's really good. Let's put that in the show. Linda ended the questions with, speak loudly, be clearly. At the end of the rehearsal, when after everyone was satiated for the day, the room gathered around Linda, standing at her walker, poised for the door, waiting to glean one last bit of wisdom before the rehearsal tomorrow. Linda seemed confused by the attention at first. Well, Linda, do you have anything else you want to say to everybody before tomorrow? Old friend, an attempt to rescue Linda from the silence. Yes. And then her mind went black. A flash. A picture from her beloved past traded places with her dark. In there, she sees her fellow cast members, all dressed for a different show. a fairy tale they co-created as a company. They're all looking at her, waiting for her to say her last spoken line, a line that would sum up the meaning of this fairy tale. Her line was the message. She carried it throughout the entire play and waited for the precise moment that she was to share it. And sometimes the burden was much too much to bear, and so she would lean into a narrator for a whispered cue. And yet today, this wasn't a burden at all. Perhaps today was the real precise moment in a larger play that she was to share it. And with no net, no crutch, no prompt, Linda turned to the waiting room and said, "You have the key all along. You come from the power of your heart." And that was that. Linda took her walker, rolling across the row of mirrors. "Out of my la 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 la." "I think I swallowed some apple." He faints. The stepmother pushes the wheelchair off into the wings, comes back, kisses the cowboy. "Hi, darling." "Broom, I want to put my arms around you, darling. Now I want to sit on a bench with a love song." Final song. "I love you, baby. I want to dance with you, darling. I want to sit by the fireplace and say romantic things. I love my guy. He always will amaze me. I want to put my arms around him and begin to sing finale. La la la, a happy ending. La la la, happy day. La la la, let's have a wedding. La la la, let's run away. Shaboopy! The audience roared and went wild and rose to their feet, whistling and bravading at the joy and simplicity and beauty of the vision of this little woman. A woman that too many people in this world see as a mistake. Linda was on a Broadway stage at last, just like she had always known in her mind's eye. She could hear her music in her inner self. She could feel the dance shoes around her neck like she wore in her own production. She was Laurie, her dream role. The man in the cowboy hat could have been Curly. The man in the wheelchair could have been Judd. In Oklahoma, Laurie has to face her dream turned to nightmare. Linda had to instill her dream. And somehow, everyone in the place knew this. Some unexplained truth was realized all at once, and the entire hall leaned forward and held their breath. Linda rocked her arms backwards and forwards to the inner musical vamp until she had to sing now, before it was too late. So she opened her mouth and sang. Out of my dreams and into your arms I long to fly. And without missing a beat, the people on the stage continued. I will come as evening comes to woo a waiting sky. And as if rehearsed for weeks, the entire theater joined in. Out of my dreams and into the hush of falling shadows. Linda began to dance around her walker as if she never felt a pain in her form ever, dancing to an orchestra of voices. When the mist is low and stars are shining through, then out of my dreams I'll go. Linda looked out over the sea of her present colleagues as they began to stop their accompaniment into a dream. When you're had came to an end. Linda raised her arm to the final chord in a room full of silence, and as if she felt the tap on her shoulder,